Hi everyone, Gamma here. Slightly more informal video today. I've already broken the format that I tried setting up in the last video. This isn't a chronicle. The next one will probably be coming up next Saturday along with the stream, which if you watch my feed on Instagram at all, you'll know that I've already had to reschedule on the first week because I didn't realise that enrolling your YouTube account to stream takes 24 hours, and because I tried to set up at like 1 in the morning, it just really isn't working. So the reason for the bonus video is partly my way of an apology for the rescheduling, but also because the day that this comes out, which should be Monday the 11th, is quite an important day, and you'll be able to see from the title, it will be 1 year since I finished chemotherapy, which is just quite strange and crazy to think about, really. It also marks the 1 year since I first got engaged to my partner Shannon, so those two important milestones in my life are quite tightly interwoven. And I thought what would be quite nice is to talk about what the last day was like, how I immediately felt afterwards, how I've been feeling since, and just sort of my thoughts on where I am right now. As a chemotherapy cycle, it wasn't any different to any of the other ones. I had my week stay there, so my chemotherapy was broken up into 2 different cycles. So one only needed me to be in for a few hours on one day, whereas I'd have to spend about, I think it was 5, from 5? I don't know, it was several days. I mean, I guess it's good that I'm starting to forget it, but at the same time you kind of don't want to, but it's kind of nice that it's not at the forefront. Having to take a second thought about it is quite reassuring in a way. But I know that for the other cycle of chemotherapy, I had to stay in for a few days, which was kind of annoying in the sense that, my last cycle I had to stay at my treatment centre, which it had good parts and bad parts. Good part was the free breakfast every morning at the Cotton Rooms, which is the hotel on site for patients to stay in as outpatients, so you don't have to sleep in the hospital. That was always good, and it was also quite nice because it let me say goodbye to all of the nurses, because not all of them worked every day, especially on the last day, which ended up being a Saturday, because only 2 nurses would work that day, because the normal treatment day at the centre I went to was on Wednesday, so by Saturday only a few people would be left. So people in my situation who were doing like that 5-day stint doing chemo. So it was nice getting to say goodbye to everybody, and it was pretty integral into my proposal plan. I think it might, on the surface of it, it might sound kind of weird, tying that milestone in your life to a location where you had to endure quite a lot of hardship and a lot of pain and general unpleasantness, really. But I still go to my old treatment centre every 2 months to speak with my oncologist, who's absolutely lovely. Everyone there's lovely. So that's always reassuring, going to catch up with people there. But at the same time, there's still a lot of fear around that. I think, one of the primary parts of my life at the minute is, every 2 months having to go back and being checked over for recurrence, which you can never fully relax. I have my I do a lot of stuff to try and manage my mood, whether that's through my mental health support or my medication. And a lot of my stress is carried in the fact that every 2 months I have to go and have this conversation after they check me over, to find out whether my cancer has come back. And that, for the last year, is something that I've really been coming to terms with. I think one of the main things that I've been proud of myself of, or I was while I was doing treatment, was how calm I found myself. I have always been the sort of person that tends to worry quite frequently and quite intensely. In the build-up to getting diagnosed, I was terrified. I never want to feel anything like that ever again. It's intense. It's like fire. The way it crawls across you, and it lights up every sort of receptor on your body, almost to the point where it feels like you should be in pain, or through how disruptive and intense some of the sensations are. But when I had the phone call where they officially told me what the situation was, Ewing's sarcoma, I felt this really weird sense of, not, the word that jumps to mind is serenity, but it was, the way I've always sort of it had as is like an extended fight or flight response, in the sense that if I didn't hone in on my survival instincts and just focus on getting better, then it might have killed me. And in that, there was no room to really be worried about it. And I was able to sustain that most of the way through my treatment journey, with the exception of when I went in for surgery, which is something that there'll be an entire chronicle about, because I feel like that deserves its own separate explanation. And I found that as soon as I finished treatment, a lot of those sensations came crawling back in, because I had the capacity to finally really start taking my mental health into consideration again. And that was heavy. The immediate 2 weeks after, there was the obvious celebration and good vibes and everything, but there were a lot of quiet, dark moments hidden within that, where I had to come to terms with the reality of what my mind and body had just spent the last 9 months going through, and how being better, being in remission, might not be a permanent, it might not be the status quo forever. And every time I go in for those two bi-monthly visits, it is something I contend with, and I still am. But the further out I get, and the more time I spend away from that part of my life, I feel like the easier it becomes. You become accustomed to carrying that weight, and you can, after a while, you can compartmentalize it to the sense that it's still there, but you can still function with it there, which I suppose is the best situation that I could hope for. I'm seeing a therapist, which is helpful, but it's a lot of work, just in the same sense that the body needs time to recover, the mind just needs exactly that level of care as well. And I think it's good that as a society we've progressed way more into giving attention and time to working on those aspects of our lives, as well as the physical parts of it. So yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about that part. I mean, in terms of how I've been progressing physically, energy is still a big factor. I'm tired a lot of the time, but that isn't helped by the fact I'm a bit of an insomniac anyway. So, not getting enough sleep because you're nervous or anxious, or generally just can't sleep because of a condition, and then needing even more sleep on the back of that because your body is still recovering. I still have chemo fatigue, which can interfere with your energy levels for quite a while after you finish treatment, like a matter of years in some cases. So I'm trying not to push it, but with things like moving and how excited we were about that, it was one of those things where I found that taking the appropriate time to heal is important, but so's pushing yourself as well. And that's something that I found, primarily during going back to work and going through my move. Work's been great. I've said multiple times how supportive everyone at my job's been, and I've never once felt insecure about my place at work. I worry about my skill level to the extent that there are the cognitive impairment that I suffered, or chemo brain, for those who are more familiar with the terms, and you're going to get insecure about that. I went from inside of a year, 9 months to a year, from lying in a hospital bed, sometimes repeating conversations multiple times because I'd forgotten that I just had them, to nestling back into my professional services role. But I think I've surprised myself. I think, in a way, you build this perception and you become accustomed to the idea of perhaps not being as mentally competent or useful as I would say. However, I really don't feel like that's been the case. I feel like I'm doing really well, and that in large part is because of the support network I have. I've also, despite the sort of lingering peripheral neuropathy in some of my fingers, so it's mostly these three that it still, these three that it still lingers in sometimes, and that occasionally is annoying. At the minute, it's sort of renegated to sometimes it hurts opening packets, or I can't quite like find the edge on like tape or something silly like that. Not like it was before, where it felt like my hands were just numb all the time and it sucked and my grip strength was ridiculous. There used to be somebody who used to teach me exercises for building up like hand strength, because the I can't remember the word, but the muscles had started to wear down in my hands. And when we first met, she was like, right, I want you to take my hand and squeeze it as hard as you can. And she was almost shocked by, how weak it was. So that's, I've come a long way since then. I mean, I helped I helped my dad assemble a lot of the furniture in my new place. But as sort of COVID restrictions tightened, I sort of had to take on the role of doing them myself. And I found that I weirdly enjoy flat pack furniture. I think because for the same reason I enjoy cooking so much, which is probably something I'd like to feature in my channel a bit more. I think because it's procedural, it doesn't let my mind wander as much. I have to remain sort of task orientated, which is quite, I think it just helps the mind relax, weirdly enough. I was hoovering earlier because, the sound of the hoover drowns out sort of the voice in your head, like when your internal narration quite a lot. I find that I just tune out and I feel relaxed, so I really don't mind doing the hoovering. So I'm finding that I'm a weirdly proficient homemaker, which is something that I really didn't expect, considering how messy my old bedroom was. So I think overall it's going really well. I'm actually really happy with the way things are going. Saying that I've been engaged for a year is also strange as well. Everyone always asks, when are you setting a date? When are you setting a date? I think it's going to be one of those long engagements. And that's partly because our engagement was not just a representation of love and the commitment that we have to each other and how much me and Shannon both care about each other, but also a celebration of life and recognition of the possibility that a diagnosis like cancer doesn't mean that you can't live a normal life, and you can't celebrate these things and build things and look forward to things. So I think that's one of the primary reasons that we were so excited to get engaged, despite recognising that it'd be quite a long engagement. She had no idea. She had absolutely no idea. Before COVID hit, we were meant to be going to Paris, and I think everybody, like after I finished treatment, we were going to Paris with a few friends, and I think everyone's money was on us getting engaged there. Nope. I'm all about like weird, I don't know, melodramatic symbolism and ceremony. So rooftop proposal on the roof of the building I'd received chemotherapy for 9 months was the way that I went, assisted by my parents and the nurses at UCLH, who are all amazing. And I think quickly hopping back to the nurses just for 1 second, I think it's very hard to let go of those relationships. I don't let go fully, but you get used to seeing everyone every couple of weeks when you're doing treatment. And I think even though it is a job for the people who work in the NHS, but I think it becomes so much more, and you can see that in the way you can see how much these people care in the way they interact with you, and you can't help but reciprocate. And in, you know, when I was doing my last week of chemo, I was getting upset saying goodbye to everyone, and I was thinking, you know, I'm so glad that I'm not sick anymore, but I really don't want to go back to not seeing these people all the time, which is part of something I enjoy when I have to go back for my checkups. I have one coming up this Wednesday, so I'll probably make a video about that. Yeah, it's something that I am luckily able to look forward to. Yeah, and they helped me with setting up the engagement. There's photos on my Instagram, and I think with the free editing software I'm using at the minute, I don't know if there'll be an overlay of photos. There could be one anywhere, but I don't know. They're on my Instagram, which is sort of a shameless plug to go and check them out there. So yeah, she had no idea. It was lovely. There was champagne, there was flowers. It was really cool, and it was a really, like, everyone chipping in and sort of celebrating like that. It was just such a wholesome way to end things, and it brought me, you know, just such a level of peace that I think has been sustained over the last year, and I think is probably what will help carry me to the future, as well as all of the things I have planned personally. You know, we're building my career and hopefully, you know, starting to tell my story a bit more and creating content. You know, I'm already in the throes of writing another book at the moment, and that one's going to be more narrative based. It's going to be more of a storytelling thing, rather than like a non-fiction retelling. So I feel great. I feel like it's all good things in the future. I don't want to jinx it. I say touch wood, but my desk's made out of MDF, so that's probably not the best type of wood to put your faith in. But yeah, I feel like it's been good, and I hope this has been a useful update. Not to gloat about how well things are going, but I think, you know, for those who know me, I think it's reassuring to know that I'm in a good place. But then for people who watch this because they want to learn about what it was like, just to sort of show that it's not, you know, it's not the end. It doesn't have to be the end, and things can get better, and they will get better if you are doing treatment still, or you start doing treatment. That diagnosis is not the end of who you are or who you can be. Yeah. So yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed. I can't see the timer, so this is probably like 15-20 minutes worth of waffle. It depends on, I don't know. I'll go back and have a look through now, and I'll have this uploaded on Monday. So thank you everyone for stopping by, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next stream, or failing that in the next video, or on Instagram. So thank you everyone.